It took another 6 months before work resumed on the Benguet Road, this time under the direction of engineer N.M. Holmes. 6 months into the job, and Holmes encountered most of the problems that would plague the project, mistakenly estimated to take only 1 year to complete, in the years to come.
Holmes found it really hard to maintain a regular labor force because of talk spreading around about the poor sanitary conditions of the construction camps. Cost overruns went terribly out of control, and one of the reports that Holmes submitted gives us a clearer picture of the difficulties they faced in the construction of the Benguet Road. One of the chief difficulties to the rapid prosecution of this work has been the unstable and insecure nature of the entire country. Slopes here stand at angles of such excessive steepness that the slightest disturbance of their natural condition starts a slide that may not check itself until hundreds of thousands of yards of earth, broken rock, trees, etc. have come down. These slides occur in the most unlikely places and with no previous indications generally of their insecurity. Owing to this condition and the numerous slides caused as soon as the rain started, I have made numerous changes in the route from its original survey, and I'm keeping down close to the river instead of up on the slopes.
Holmes was also overwhelmed by the great power of the Bued River, which he said was capable of unbelievably rising enormously in the blink of an eye. During a typhoon on June 1, 1902, Holmes reported that the river rose 40 feet in just 4 hours, which washed away a 60-foot span truss bridge they had constructed. He narrated that at noon of that day, he was standing on that same bridge looking down at the water about 30 feet below, and by 4 p.m. that same afternoon, the river rose more than 8 feet above the bridge.
We can say that both Meade and Holmes made disastrous errors in judgment. A status update on the whole Hill Station project 2 years since it was initiated would have been quite upsetting. Expenses on the Benguet Road project have gone way beyond the original $75,000. Lives were being lost at the construction sites with very minimal progress. And up at the Hill Station site itself, there was really nothing much to show for, except for the tiny sanitarium. The press went on an offensive, and in an uproar that sounds too familiar even today, most Filipinos felt that a huge amount of taxpayers' money was being spent on this Hill Station idea, which to them is a luxury that would only benefit the Americans and the elite. Hardly any good news ever reached the capital about the project, and with a string of errors that the developers continued to make, come a string of extra appropriations that the government had to make. A clamor for the abandonment of the project began.
In the summer of 1903, as the clamor for the abandonment of the Hill Station project got louder and louder, the U.S.-Philippine Commission had to make a very critical decision: listen to the critics and call it off, or go ahead with it despite the intense controversy. The Americans answered their critics with a resolution on June 1, 1903.
The resolution declared the town of Baguio in the province of Benguet the official summer capital of the country. The commissioners voted unanimously to construct appropriate structures and to make residence in Baguio possible for the officials and employees of the insular government for 4 months during the year. This effectively transformed Baguio from being a mere health and recreation resort to being the official seat of government during the summer months. This gave the whole Hill Station project more credibility, and therefore justifying the enormous amount of government resources being poured into it. In that same month, the Americans brought in a new man in charge of the Benguet Road project, Lyman Cannon.
Lyman Cannon was a major in the 10th U.S. Infantry and a highly skilled engineer and administrator. But the odds were against him. Because of the harsh working conditions up in the mountains, both Meade and Holmes found it difficult to maintain the number of workers needed to do the job. Poor sanitation in the construction camps led to various sicknesses, and the rugged mountain terrain made it difficult to transport equipment, construction materials, tools, food, and medicines.
But Cannon persevered and even managed to assemble a workforce of 3,000 laborers composed of men coming from 46 different nations, which included Filipinos, of course, Japanese, Mexicans, English, Irish, Spanish, among others. And Cannon learned from the mistakes of his predecessors. To keep his men from abandoning the project, he guaranteed decent wages. Married men were allowed to have their families with them in the camps. And he even indulged their vices by making cigars and cigarettes available. And he even established gambling houses and bars in certain areas.
But despite having improved the conditions in the construction camps, diseases like cholera continued to plague the workers. Accidents continued to happen.
But Cannon persisted. Among the factors that contributed to Cannon's success was the fact that he listened to his people, unlike his predecessors. Cannon realized that certain Western engineering methods were unsuitable to the unique conditions in Benguet, so he willingly implemented brilliant technological suggestions coming from his multinational workers.
The mutual respect and trust between Cannon and his workers, his determination, and propped up by the strong moral support of the government despite mounting criticisms from various sectors, Cannon informed the Philippine Commission on January 29, 1905 that
the road, as it stands, is entirely completed and ready for the laying of tracks.